Thank you, Pastor D. Pastor D is, of course, my pastor and somebody that covers me and prays over me and my family and him and his lovely wife in our absence, and the Global Fire family. I'm truly blessed to be here and to be sharing with you on another Father's Day. And I'm very pro Father's Day. It's a blessing being a dad. It's one of the biggest blessings of my life. My son is here, and it's one of those things that I take full joy. And I'm gonna be speaking a lot about fathers, and I'm gonna be talking to fathers out here, and also to children. So that's everybody, right? So, all right, let's get to this. Let's get to the scripture. So I'm gonna start at Luke 15. I have two stories to tell today. And I'm going to start with a parable from Jesus. All right. And then I'm going to give a parable from myself. Let's do Luke 15. I'm just going to read verse 17 to 24. And this is a very well-known story. It says, when he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out, go back to my father, and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found, so they began to celebrate. This is a very unique story, and it's very unique for many reasons. One, because you're looking at now a relationship between the father and the son, and this is one of those things that we don't really hear as much these days. The love of a father to his son or to his child in this case. And I was trying to analyze a few things about this story that I want to just highlight 3 quick points to fathers all around, especially fathers that are trying to be good fathers. So one of the things that I say all the time, we try to show up and do our best, and hopefully our best is good enough, and I want to encourage with 3 things. One of the things that came to me when I was listening to this story was the son asked the father for his inheritance, right? Which means that one of the things that the son saw in the father was his ability to get up and get to work. His ability to work and put himself in a position where he's able to provide for his children and for them, right? And that's one of the first points that I highlight, a father that provides, right? One of the major responsibilities for a father is to provide for their children. And you see here that this son, obviously if he was brought up in a household where he knew his dad didn't have it, he would ask anything, right? He asked because he saw his dad work, right? But the next thing that always has me a little bit confused, and I've been asking myself this question for years, is why did the father give it to him? Right? Why did the father give him all the inheritance? For those that don't know the story, let's recap it real quickly. The son asked the father for his whole inheritance. The father gave it to him. He left then. He went out there, and the Bible says, King James Version says, he spent his money on rituals living, right? And he was up in the club, you guys are right. So he was doing this thing, and he spent all his money, right? He spent all his money, and when he spent all his money, everybody that he knew, of course, was no longer there. He now went to, of course, had to go work, right? And one thing I love about the Bible, and the thing about the Bible is the Bible does not put anything in there just to put it in there. Everything is in there for a reason, right? And one of the things that it highlights is the fact that when he went to go work, the Bible described that he went to work in where the pigs are, right? And if you understand the context of the Jewish culture, Jewish culture has absolutely positively nothing to do with pigs. He was so hungry he wanted to eat what the pigs eat. You know, and that is obviously to show you how deep in despair this guy was, right? How down he was, that he was even willing to be in a position to want to eat what everybody in that culture knows this is absolutely not. He obviously arose to his senses and came back and ran to the Father's house. That's a quick recap, right? But the question I ask is why did the Father give it to him, right? He saved up all this money for his child, right? And, you know, thought about the future. This is one of those things that fathers do all the time, right? Try to think about, you know, where you see your child and, you know, set things up for him. You get stuff like life insurances and all these things like that. And then all of a sudden the son comes to you one day and they say, yo, Pops, give me all the money. I need all the money right now. He's like, okay, here you go. Right? And then something came to me. I said, maybe another thing that he was doing was instructing. And fathers instruct their kids, because what I was processing is maybe he knew his son, right? Because if you look at the context of the fact that the older brother at the end of the story was upset at the dad being excited over the son coming back, right? If the brother knew the son was a hard worker like he was, remember what he said? He said, I work in the fields and I do everything with you every single day, right? Which is obviously saying, how come you guys are celebrating this guy, right? And I'm here working consistently, right? I think that one of the things that maybe was happening in the father's mind when he saw his son is he knew that his son needed a lesson to learn, right? He took the money because if the son had the right mindset, obviously he would not do the things that he did. He went out, he spent all his money on ritualist living, and now was put into a place of total humility, which is a great place to be with God, right? Sometimes he allows us to do certain things. This is something that we see all the time, right? Sometimes you wonder, like, why did God allow these things to happen to me? Well, maybe it was an instruction that he wanted you to learn something, right? Maybe there was something that he wanted you to see, you know what I mean? Because he has foresight. He can see in the future, right? So now the son is at a point of total humility, and now he's like, listen, man, I don't even want to be a son no more. I just, just make me one of the servants. And now he's at a great place for God to use him, right? He's at a great place, right, for God to use him. The next thing that I said was the beautiful thing about the son, and this is a great lesson for all dads. The beautiful thing about the son is at the very moment that he had, oh yeah, did I give you my topic? I did give you my topic, right? All right, let's hold up on this one, all right? So, the beautiful thing about the son is the son knew that the very moment that he was in trouble, he knew to go back to the father, right? Very unique. Like, he didn't say, oh, I need to get another job, right? Or I need to get another hustle, or I need to do something else. Like, he knew instantly that my covering and my protection comes from my dad. And I need to be in a position now where I can run back to my father, because I know whether or not he makes me a son again or whether or not he makes me a servant again, I am better under his protection, right? I'm better under his cover. And my last point on this story, I'm going to bring up the next story. My last point on this story is one of the things that you see also is a father's love for his child. This is something, like I said in the beginning, something you don't really see as much, right? Because we always hear about there's no love like the mom loves the child, right? You don't really hear too much about the dad that is sitting down, looking down the street, looking down the road. And I think sometimes every dad has this feeling, whether or not it might not come out the same way exactly like the mom. Of course, mom's more nurturing, more loving, more, kissy and huggy, and But as men, when you see, there's nothing like when you see your child, right? If there's any dads in here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When your child comes out, it's like that's your child, right? And to see him now go off that, his dad is probably working and thinking, my dad is like that. Right? My dad will be working if he knows that something's happening with any one of his kids. He's working, he's grinding, but guess what's on his mind all day long? His children. The love of a father for his child. Now, obviously, Jesus is bringing up this story to show this is how he is to you when we now go off and we go do our thing and we go, to the left, right? He's always there, looking out for us and chasing us. And this right here is one of my foundation things I wanted to present, and I'm going to go to now the main point. What I want to talk about this morning is I want to talk about the Lion King. I want to talk about the Lion King, and I kind of wanted to use this as a premise for this because there's a great story that I wanted to highlight to encourage everybody. Obviously, if you never watched The Lion King, this is spoiler. This is 1990 something. I'm so sorry. You should have watched. But here you see Mufasa having his son named Simba, and he's super excited, right? Super excited, have his son, right, doing all that stuff, right? And now, he's showing him the way that he should go, right? He's saying to him, hey, you, my son, are going to be king, right? You're going to be king, and this is how a king ought to walk. This is how a king ought to act. This is how we prance. This is how we do this, right? He's showing him a certain level of, okay, this is exactly what you need to do. Don't go over there. This is where you rule over here. And of course, the little kid is just running around like, yay, 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 I'm going to be king, I'm going to be king, I'm going to be king, right? And now, of course, his uncle, just recap real quick, his uncle got, very upset, right? And I'm a storyteller. For those that don't know, I'm a storyteller. So most of my messages always have stories, right? So his uncle got super upset, right? And his uncle said, okay, listen, I want to be king, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill Mufasa and then kill what? Kill his son, right? So, of course, now the most sad scene in Disney in a while, right? He kills Mufasa, and then now Simba is running away. Now, this part right here is very unique to me, right? And I'm going to tell you why. Because here you have Simba that, for the first time in his life, is about to experience life without his dad, right? And what paralleled that feeling was, I wonder if this is how Jesus felt.
Wow.
When he was on the cross. And for the very first moment in history, he looked up and was like, where's my father? You have forsaken me. Of course we all know Jesus became sin. God can no longer, it's like, I can't identify with this. You must die on the cross. Now that feeling of losing that connection, right? Here goes Simba. Simba he's devastated, right? Losing that connection with the dad. Losing that connection with the father. And he's running away. And think about what he's doing. He's running away and he's dancing and prancing with his food. See, I know they don't talk about that, right? Like he's dancing and he's prancing with what he's supposed to be eating. Right? We're talking about a lion. The king of the jungle is eating worms and snails. Why? Because identity is now gone. That level of identity that he gets from his father, right? When God said, this is my son in whom I am well, that level of identity that's placed on him. He now is running around without identity. He doesn't even know his power anymore. He doesn't even know his strength anymore. He doesn't know who he is anymore. He's out there and he's just dancing and prancing and just Hakuna Matataing. And this is very similar to what we do in our lives, especially when we're away from the Father, right? This is what we do. We get out here and we forget our identity in Him. We forget who we are called to be in Him. And guess what that does? Just like the prodigal son, that causes you also to waste your living, waste your life on rituals living. Until you're now also, just like the prodigal son, looking up one day and saying, something is off. Something is off here.
Yeah.
Right? He is dancing and prancing. He forgets who he is. All of a sudden the monkey came to him, right? The monkey said, you know, hey, I know who you are. He said, you know me? He said, yeah, I know who you are. You are Mufasa's boy. They didn't say you are Simba.
Oh.
You are Mufasa's boy. You are God's child.
Say it.
You are his son.
Glory to God.
You are his. So while you're out there doing your thing, you know, have anybody ever called you out sometimes when you're caught in some, you know, basically not supposed to be, right? And somebody that says, there's something different about you, and you feel convicted, right? He said, you are Mufasa's boy. And he said, man, I'm so sorry to tell you this. He said, do you know my father? He said, correction, I know your father. He said, you know my father? No, I know your father. He said, man, I'm so sorry to tell you this. He died a long time ago. He said, no, wrong again. He lives. And I'm going to show you him. So he now is taking him down. And then all of a sudden now, he said, go over there and look. He then looks. Come back sad. Can't see him. Don't see him. No. Look a little harder. Look a little harder. So he looked and he realized, there goes my dad. Yeah, even though I spent years eating worms, I spent years doing things I wasn't supposed to do, years outside of the church, outside of his presence, years outside, but man, when you look a little deeper, you haven't got a chance to see yourself in a long time. Look a little closer. You start realizing, oh man, I am. And this is my topic. The dad came out of nowhere. And the dad said, you have forgotten me. So he said, I didn't forget you. How can I forget you? He said, no. You have forgotten who you are. So it's obvious that you have forgotten me. Look within yourself. You are more than what you have become. Just like the prodigal son, right? You have forgotten me. You're out there, you're doing your thing, you're spending all your money, you've forgotten all the teachings, all the instructions, all the things that I trained you, I taught you, I labored with you for years. You forgot all that. And now you're out there with the pigs. It's like, you've forgotten me. It's like, no, I didn't forget you, man. Of course, I've been with you for years. God, you know what time it is. I forgot you. He's like, no, because you obviously forgot who you are. You are not maximizing in your greatest potential. You're not doing the things that I taught you to do. You're not running, I gave you tons of ideas. You have not done anything with those ideas, right? You know what I mean? You have forgotten me. What have I forgotten? You have forgotten how to pray like I taught you to pray. You forgotten to fast like I taught you to fast. Like, you look up one day and realize, I don't recognize myself anymore. You forgotten me. I gave you so much. I gave you I taught you so much. We labored. I remember the time when you were sick. And you got healed. You forgot that. You forgot that. Now people are sick and you're the last thing on your mind is prayer. You've forgotten me, right? One time when people were sick, I remember Pastor D used to tell me when his mom got sick and he went on fasting for days, weeks, until healing came. Right? You have forgotten me. You forgot how to fast. You have forgot how to lay out before the Lord. This is the reason why you're doing rituals living. This is the reason why you're doing things you're not supposed to be doing, because obviously identity in the Father is no longer there for you. You're gone. God has given you so much to do. And the thing I want to encourage everybody to think about, let's say it like this. Right when he said, you have forgotten who you are, so you've forgotten me, he said to remember who you are. You are my son. This is something my son has heard me say so many times. I will tell my son, hey son, check it out. You're going to be great. Why? Because you're my son. Now, why am I saying that? Because that sounds very like egotistical, right? No. It's identity. It's identity. The same identity that God gives us. And the thing I want to encourage everybody, I want you, just in case you felt like you haven't been, in a relationship with God for a long time, or you felt like you've been, just out there for years. You don't recognize the church services anymore. You've just been so gone and out there, and it's like you don't feel the connection. He said, remember who you are. Yeah. You are my child. So I don't care where you go. It don't matter what you're thinking you're doing. You are my child. And I want on this Father's Day, us all not to forget our Heavenly Father. Because sometimes, and one of my managers, he said this to me the other day. He said, John, we always give each other Happy Father's Day, but do we ever go back to the Father? I said, man, I never really thought about that. I don't want you to forget the Heavenly Father and the level of the identity that He's trying to place on your life today. If you're listening right now, I want to encourage you. You remember what God has called you to do. You remember what God has called you to do. And it's not too late. Right now, if you listen to me, it is not too late. Right? God has called you for something greater than what you're doing. He said, look within yourself. You are more than what you become. Right? You can always run back to the Father. You can always run back to Him. You can always feel the presence of God all over again. It's not too late for you. And I want to make sure that everybody knows it's not too late for you. Right? God is here. And that's my message. I want to pray over all the dads also. I want to pray over all the dads also, because one of the things I was thinking about as I was preparing this message, I was saying,